The Colts edge rushers had a little resurgence in 2022, but could 2023 be even better? Is the duo of Kwity Paye and Samson Ebukam underrated in the league's eyes? Well, let's talk about it. Welcome to the Horseshoe Huddle Podcast presented by Fan Nation on SI.com, part of the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Andrew Moore, and I'm joined here by my fellow writer and colleague at Horseshoe Huddle, Drake Wally. Drake, we've gone through all of the offensive positions for the Colts. Now our positional preview episodes moves to the defensive side of the ball, where we start talking about a unit that really showed some promise in 2022, kind of fell off late, but I'm really excited about Gus Bradley's unit and what they can do in the second year of this scheme. So how you doing, man? It's good to see you here on this Thursday evening.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I'm really excited to start talking about these edge rushers because a couple were hurt, dinged up. Another one got a big resurgence in the second half of the year when a lot of those games kind of didn't matter. So there was a lot of things that weren't seen that should have been seen. So I'm really excited to dive into these to this defensive end group. But also tomorrow's Friday, man. Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
Yeah, I'm ready for a relaxing weekend. Well, last weekend was the 4th of July. It seemed like we were kind of busy and everything. Just a chill weekend this weekend. But hey, it's always fun to talk Colts football. Truett is in the building. As always, good to see you. Stats Matt returning this week after missing Monday's episode. Glad he was able to join us. Logan Schmidt, of course, the goats are back. I think you're talking about yourself there. We've got Matthew Stansberry. What up, nerds? Love it. I love it. The football nerds that we are. And then we have Inside the Shoe. Inside the Shoe, always a loyal listener. Brandon Moses is in the chat. But hey, he put a certain of a Twitter user that I'm not going to give any more publicity. So instead, we are going to look at Inside the Shoes super chat right here. Friday, but Ebukam is a rotational player, in my opinion. We're going to talk about that. It's because I think this is where Inside the Shoe and I differ a little bit, and I'm going to tell you why I really think that Samson Ebukam is going to be not only a starter for the Colts, but one of the biggest impact players on the Colts defense. So Inside the Shoe, greatly appreciate the super chat, buddy. You're such a loyal listener. You're one of the good ones, so we really appreciate it. So before we dive in here to really all of the specifics for the edge position tonight, please, if you haven't done so already, go follow us on all of our social media. Go ahead and like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook, follow at Colts on FN on Twitter, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that bell so you know whenever Drake and I are going live, because we're going live twice a week, every week, all the way up into training camp, and then everything's going to get wild. So, and if you can't catch us live here on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you listen to podcasts, we're on there as well. So make sure you subscribe, give us a review and a rating over there. So that way you really don't have an excuse to miss an episode of the Horseshoe Huddle podcast. Noah Compton is in the building. Just two beautiful lads talking Colts ball.
What a guy.
Noah, I don't know what you're looking at, because I'm not attractive at all. I'm an ugly son of a gun. So really appreciate you, Noah. Deep is in here as well. It's going to be a fun episode tonight, guys. And like I said, tonight we're starting off with the defensive ends for our defensive preview heading into the 2023 season. Looks a little bit different. Last year, it was Kwity Paye and Yannick Ngakoue who were the starters. Kwity Paye is back, obviously, but the Colts got a new addition to the defensive end group in Samson Ebukam from the San Francisco 49ers, signed a 3-year deal with the Colts in free agency. Dio Dangbo is back. Tyquan Lewis is back. And we've got a rookie in Titus Leo that's out there. If you want to throw Adebaware in there as a defensive end, you could. We're going to talk about him on Monday when we go over the defensive tackles, but maybe not a group that has a lot of star power, but it's a group that's filled with a lot of athletic guys, Drake, and it's a group that I think it has a lot of untapped potential.
Yeah, and the really interesting thing is they're all pretty young. Like it's a really it's a really interesting group of defensive ends because I mean Kwity Paye is going into his third year, Dio Dangbo is going into his third year. Those guys were drafted, if I'm not mistaken, back to back in the same draft. So it's like you're going to finally get to see year three of those guys. For Dio, it's almost like year two. So now Samson Ebukam, here he comes, a constant motor guy into a system where he can get more playing time. And then of course there's some depth guys that could also potentially have, a low key impact that no one's really thinking about. So it's a defensive end group that I think has a very high potential. Can't wait to see him and can't wait to get started on breaking down these guys.
Right. And let's start out with the first round pick of the Colts in the 2021 NFL draft, Kwity Paye. Kwity Paye is a guy that was taken 21st overall by the Colts. Came in, only had 4 sacks his rookie season, and I think he finished with 6 sacks last year in his sophomore campaign. Only played 11 games, so about a sack every other game, almost for Kwity Paye because he dealt with some injuries. But I think that's really the biggest thing about Kwity Paye and what's held him back so far in his short career is just the injuries. It seems like when he's out there and when he's healthy, I mean, Kwity Paye can be a handful, especially once he was able to adjust to the speed of the game. It's just we need to get him out there and keep him healthy. So Drake, what are your expectations for Kwity Paye as he enters year three? A pretty big year three for Kwity Paye.
I would say one of the biggest things that it's pretty obvious. I think he's going to take a big leap in 2023. This is a guy who is going to be looked at as the dude. All right, he is going to be the pass rusher, the defensive end. I expect him to stay healthy for the entire season. Now he's had some nagging injuries, but I do expect him to be ready to go and really be watching that health to stay on the field. And I do expect him to show that he is the best pass rusher and he's a good run defender. And he's a guy who's incredibly athletic. He's rangy. He's actually quicker than you would expect, and he's stronger than you probably would think. So this is a guy that weird. You don't really have a sack number for him, so I can't really expect a certain amount of sacks. But I just think he's going to do a fantastic job. I think that he's going to really take that big leap in year three.
Yeah, this is a lot of times it's that year two, year three when we see those pass rushers take that leap, and I think we saw that last year with Paye. I mean, even though
Yeah.
he only had 6 sacks, I don't know if I really want to look at the sack number to determine if it's a good pass rusher or not. Because Unique Ngakoue, well, he had 9.5 sacks last year. Unique Ngakoue couldn't defend against the run. It seemed like he was a lot of more cleanup sacks than anything. Kwity Paye was able to get pretty good pressure on the quarterback once he was out there and healthy. And that's the thing. If we get a healthy Kwity Paye for all 17 games, I think you're looking at a guy that's capable of getting 9-10 sacks for you at that strong side defensive end position. I mean, he's very quick. I mean, if you go back and look at his relative athletic score coming out in that 2021 NFL draft, incredibly athletic defensive end. He was considered by a lot of people to be a top 10 to 14 pick, and the Colts were able to get him at 21. I love Kwity Paye's game. I love that move where he goes from speed to power in that pass rushing game, and I think that this is just going to be, as we get into this next question, really about, or what are our questions for Kwity Paye. For me, there's really just one, and it's can he stay healthy? Because if Kwity Paye can stay healthy, I think he is going to really show the Colts this year that he is going to be a starter at defensive end for a long time for this franchise. But if injuries continue to pop up, if he misses another half the games, then you really start to wonder going into year four, can this guy be a franchise cornerstone pass rusher, or can we only rely on him for half the season? So, but my expectations is Kwity Paye is going to come out hot. I'm really excited to see what he's doing in training camp because I know he's been working diligently out in California pretty much all summer when he hasn't been at Colts OTAs or the offseason program, really working on this pass rush move. So that was kind of my big question is if he can stay healthy or not. What are your questions for Kwity Paye entering this year, Drake?
That really was the top one for me. It's detrimental because last season the guy played 12 games. Okay, he had 6 sacks, 45 tackles, 32 alone, and he had 10 tackles for loss, 10 QB hits. I mean, that's as many as he had in 15 games in his rookie season, and he didn't even have the snap count. This guy's back there hitting the quarterback. He's a dog. I'm telling you, if he stays healthy, it's a completely different ball game. I think one more question is like, will he need like full time? And I think this is a no, but will he need assistance, kind of like Yannick did? With the interior from Grover Stewart and from DeForest Buckner pushing those quarterbacks out to the edges. That's the only other question I could think of with a full-time, full season. I just don't think that he's going to need that. I really do think that the answer to that question is no. I think that he's probably the most complete pass rusher on the team.
I would agree there. Stats Matt says if Paye stays healthy, I think 9 to 10 sacks is easily obtainable, and I'd agree. Matt. It's really just if he can stay out there, because I think we know what Kwity Paye is at this point. I don't know if Kwity Paye will ever be a guy that leads the league in sacks, but he's going to get plenty of pressure on the quarterback. I think when he's healthy, you can continually rely on him to get double-digit sacks for you. He's going to play the run very well, and he's just going to be a nuisance out there on the edge. So it's really going to be exciting to see what he can do here in year 3. Now, what's the impact for Kwity Paye? Do you think that he is going to be somebody that really takes over this defensive line, or is it going to be someone that's more of like just a sum of the parts where he's a good contributor, but he's not going to really reach that star level? What do you think his impact is going to be this year?
That's a really interesting question because I feel like he's been on the verge. I really think he's on the verge of that star level. But for 2023, I think that with a full season, he will be the guy who is a part of a big pass rushing group, like a part of guy. He'll probably lead the team in sacks. I think that his presence elevated the Colts pass rush last season when he was on the field. When he was off, you could feel it, you could see it. But when he was on that field, man, it was a completely different defense. I think he kind of like Stats Matt said, I think he can push. I know I said no sack number, but if I had to guess, it's between 8 and 10 sacks with a fully healthy season, which look for Kwity Paye, he was on track for 8.5 last year. So that's about where you'd expect. And I think that he's going to be a big presence in the run defense department. I mean, he is also very good at stopping the run from his edge. So I think that his impact is going to be felt in the run game, the passing game, the pass rush. He's going to really cause some problems if he's out there healthy, ready to go and at full strength.
Yeah, I'd agree there. And that's again, it's if he can stay healthy, and he's had some injury problems both seasons. So until he can overcome that and show us and prove that he can stay healthy, there's going to be those questions around him. The best ability is availability. I say it over and over again, but a healthy Kwity Paye is a dangerous Kwity Paye. Someone where he can line up really in either defensive end spot. I assume he'll probably be on the strong side with Ebukam over there in the Leo spot because he's a little bit smaller. But you're going to get a guy that can help you on all 3 downs. He'll probably be somebody that plays 60 to 70% of your snaps out there when he is healthy. He's going to be a solid to really good starter for you. And I think you can expect that out of him, and anything else is just a bonus. So I'm really excited about year 3 with Kwity Paye. Really excited how he ended last season as well. Yeah. And I think that's just going to continue. I know he's really been working hard this off season, but this is where I think we can move over to the other side of the defensive line with a guy that is going to be the starter at Leo, and I'll explain here why. So inside the shoe, I can kind of make my case for that. Samson Ebukam, and here's the thing. I think I've said this before on the show, but Drake, this Samson Ebukam signing, and I'm going to feel this way until he proves me wrong, and I hope he doesn't prove me wrong, but to me this just feels like the signing that the Colts made when they signed Danico Autry, a guy that was more of a rotational pass rusher, wasn't a full-time starter anywhere, but then he comes to the Colts, he gets that opportunity to be that full-time starter, and he just absolutely takes off and turns into one of the more underrated, but just really, really solid defensive linemen in the game. And I really think that's what things are setting up for Samson Ebukam.
Yeah, I'm actually right there with you. Where he was able to do, I mean, he's actually been in the league for 6 seasons already, and what he's been able to do as this rotational piece is, nothing short of awesome. He just continuously provides a motor. He still gets sacks in his limited playing time, and he causes a lot of issues, and he's a great run defender. So I think that the Colts got one heck of a defensive pass rusher, and I think that he's going to make some waves in his first year with a full slate of snaps.
And you might ask, why wasn't Ebukam a starter with the 49ers? Well, it's because he was behind a guy named Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty, there's not many guys, if at all, better out there rushing the passer than Nick Bosa. But what are your expectations for Ebukam going into 2023? His first year as what we think will be as a starter for the Colts.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I do think that he gets that starting nod. I think that he is going to provide a constant amount of energy from his position. He actually, I think, even with this rotational role we've talked about, this is from 2017 to 2022, 2 sacks, 3 sacks, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5, and 5. And he's consistently gotten 30 plus total tackles. He's consistently played good run defense. He gets pressures, a lot of pressures, which are a stat that you just cannot appreciate enough. It doesn't get the recognition it should. I think that with more playing time, he's gonna really take off. I think that this is a guy that no one's talking about except Colts fans. No one really knows about except maybe some fans in the AFC South. But man, I really have a high level of expectations for Samson Ebukam, and I think he's going to start. That's the last thing I'm going to say. I think that he's ready to start. I think the Colts brought him in to start. He has more experience than Dio or the other depth pieces we're talking about. Since 2017, he's been in the NFL, so I think that he's been working to get to this point, and I think the Colts gave him the opportunity to be, to kind of show what he's got here for the defense.
Right. And throughout OTAs, Ebukam was the starter at the Leo position. And here's why I'm not so sure that here's one reason why Dio I don't think will start over Ebukam. It's because Dio Dangbo more fits that strong side defensive end, those bigger defensive ends that can really go against the run. Samson Ebukam he's a little bit smaller of a defensive end. More of a I wouldn't say finesse because that's not really his playing style either, but he's a little bit smaller and he's a speed rusher. That fits that Leo role perfectly. Why Yannick Ngakoue was brought into the Colts last year, because he was a smaller pass rusher, a speed rusher. That's what Samson Ebukam is. A little bit smaller, but he's going to bring that speed element. So you're going to want to get him out there in that wide 9 stance, let him pin his ears back and go after the quarterback. And I love that comment that you made and that you brought up his energy, Drake, because when you talk to old teammates about Samson Ebukam, or you even just turn on the film and watch for yourself, that man plays every single snap at 110%. There is never a question about Ebukam's effort. He plays like his hair is on fire every single snap, trying to get after that quarterback, trying to make an impact on every single play. So again, my expectations for Ebukam in this full-time starter role, because he really hasn't had that opportunity yet, is I think we're going to see a career year out of Samson Ebukam. Would I be surprised that, again, 9 to 10 sacks, maybe even a little bit higher? Absolutely not. I think when you get that kind of talent, get that kind of energy in that wide attacking front that Colts defensive line coach Nate Ollie has been preaching and teaching over the last year and change now, you're going to get him out there ready to go after the quarterback, and just giving him more opportunities, you're going to see those sack numbers climb. So with having, instead of playing 35% of the snaps. You're going to see Ebukam out there playing 65 to 70% of the snaps. So you can expect those sack numbers and that production to probably close to double, especially when you're playing with guys like DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, Kwity Paye, where the defense or the offensive line can't just key in on you. This is why I think that the Samson Ebukam signing is one of the more underrated signings for the Colts this season, and I think it could be something that really turns into the Colts' favor in all of this.
And again, going back to the reason that they brought him in. I mean, initially people were kind of like, okay, we got another depth piece. The Colts have a depth piece. I really do think they brought him in to start. And I think that, kind of like you said, that wide stance, that speed rushing style that he's got, he can really cause a lot of chaos. And that constant motor, man, it wears you down if you're a tackle. After all of that time, after 60 minutes of having to block somebody like that, play in, play out, it really wears you down, and it opens up opportunities for other teammates on the line too.
Stats Matt says Samson is unique, that can stop a running back.
Yep.
I like that. Matthew says that Ebukam, I'll get it right eventually, higher pressure rate too, if he remembers correctly. You are correct. He does have a higher pressure rate per pass rushing snap. Wyatt Law, good to see you, says Ebukam won't start for Indy because he's behind Dio, who's finally 100% healthy and ready to show why Ballard drafted him in round 2 years ago. Now, why I will say that Ebukam has taken all the starting reps out there as the Leo. And I think if you're looking for Dio to really push anybody, it would be Kwity Paye, because Dio isn't really the body type for that Leo position. They almost play two completely different positions. And so far we haven't seen Dio Dangbo enter the starting lineup. Not to say that he can't if he has really a really strong season and earns that. But as of right now, Dio Dangbo is seen as more of a rotational pass rusher to come in he can come in for probably both, come in on the inside if he wants to go. The Colts need an extra pass rusher at the defensive tackle position. But as of right now, I don't think Dio is there yet as to be considered a starter. But Drake, I mean, we're talk about all the hype that I have for Samson Ebukam, but he isn't a perennial pass rusher. So what are some of the questions that you have for this new guy as he comes to the Colts?
Just a couple, because I'm right there with you. I'm very high on Ebukam. I think that he's going to provide a lot of exciting defensive plays off the edge there. But what kind of Samson Ebukam are we going to get with more of a prominent role? Like what are we going to get? Consistent, attacking type of pressure like he always had when he got his snaps in San Francisco? Could he push 8 to 10 sacks or higher when he's starting full time, when he's getting 60+% of those snaps? And how is he going to play without? Now, I know he was behind Nick Bosa, and now he's got a chance to be the guy, but that was a better defense. I mean, I personally think that the 49ers defense was stifling. They were just a lot.
They were the best in the
handle.
NFL last season.
Exactly. So how is he going to mesh without that? I mean, you got a defensive back group right now, especially after the Rodgers situation, where it's very young, it's very raw. You're still got a question mark on Shaq Leonard. But I think that if all of that adds up, I think that he's going to actually help out the secondary, because he's going to be providing pressure. So really want to know how he's going to play without being on such a dominant defense.
And that's a very fair question to have, because he was with guys like a Nick Bosa, like an Eric Armstead. Was it D Ford? That was the other one.
Fred Warner.
Fred Warner was out there. But it was a stacked defense with the San Francisco 49ers. So while the Colts do have some guys, I mean, you're talking DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, Shaq Leonard when he is healthy, Kenny Moore when he's playing up to his full potential. The Colts have some guys there, but that San Francisco 49ers defense was on another level. And I do have a lot of hype for Samson Ebukam. But again, that hype doesn't really mean anything until he goes out there and proves it. You know what I mean? So he's going to have that opportunity. but can he double that production? Can he go out there and show that he is worthy of being more than just a rotational pass rusher? Or is he a guy that kind of tops out at 5 or 6 sacks a year and is more suited for a rotational backup role rather than a prominent starter there at the defensive end position? And he's going to face those questions until he goes out there and proves, hey, I'm a legitimate threat to rush the passer, and I'm a guy that's going to go out there and get you double digit sacks if I have enough playing time. So I think that's my biggest question for him, and I really hope that he goes out there and proves that he can do that. But what do you think his, as we wrap up on Ebukam, what do you think his impact is going to be for this defense?
Oh man, I'll go right back to it. I'm so pumped that this guy is literally a human motor. He is going to be bringing constant pressure, constant attacking. He is just a machine. So expect that. That's something that I think he's going to have a big impact with. I think he's going to impact the run defense so much. I think that he's going to track those running backs, track those quarterbacks, those end arounds, whatever, those wide receiver runs, and he is going to track the ball carrier better than we saw last year by maybe even a long shot. And I think that he is going to open up opportunities for other players. I think that when you have a constant motor mixed with a guy who can stop the run and a speed rushing type of tactic, man, you're going to open up opportunities for others, because eventually he's going to get through and you're going to have to probably bring over somebody else to block him. That's going to open up another gap.
Right. And I think pack for is just going to be that the Colts aren't going to have to worry about having a liability in the run game the way they did with Yannick Ngakoue, where it was almost better to take Ngakoue off the field on those running downs and more keep him as just a situational pass rusher rather than keep him out there, just because he was such a poor run defender last year. You don't have to worry about that with Ebukam. Ebukam has shown that he plays well against the run. That's just concern. When you combine that with his ability to go out and affect the passer, not just with sack numbers, but with a high pressure rate, being able to really contain the quarterback in the pocket. When you have two defensive ends, two edge rushers in Kwity Paye and Samson Ebukam, both guys give 110% on every single play, there's not going to be a loss or a need for more effort out of your edge rushers. So it's going to be fun to watch those guys kind of try to race to the quarterback, to see the energy that they bring not only to that defensive line, but to that whole defense. Because when you have your pass rushers that are really just attacking, trying to get after the quarterback, the rest of the defense can really get fueled on that, and it can create a really fun atmosphere for this Colts defense. And more pressures leads to more quarterback mistakes, which can lead to more turnovers, which this defense desperately needs from what they did in 2022. I think having those pass rushers will certainly help. Hopefully having a healthy Shaq Leonard back will certainly help.
Yes.
But I'm really excited to see what Samson Ebukam can do in a more in an expanded role and his first real opportunity as a starter. And I think it's going to be a really good success in this Colts defense. And then we're going to move it along to a guy that I know the chat is excited to talk about as I've been kind of monitoring things here. Dayo Odeyingbo, Drake, another third-year player. The Colts took him in the second round out of Vanderbilt in the 2021 NFL draft. Was coming off of an Achilles injury, so really he only played about half of his rookie season. Didn't really contribute much, so that was really kind of used as a redshirt year. So last year was more of his rookie season. We saw to end the year, Dayo Odeyingbo really start to come on strong. Seemed like the game kind of slowed down for him a little bit. So I'm really excited to see what Hurricane Dayo can do in year 3.
Yeah, and one of the things that was so awesome about him in the offseason is the guy was already large, he was already rangy, he already had freakishly long limbs and freakish power. Now put on 11 additional pounds of ridiculously heavy muscle. This guy is going to be a problem when it comes to power. I mean, he's athletic as heck. He's adding more muscle to his frame, and he's coming into, really, like you said, his sophomore season. I mean, that 2021 year, he had that Achilles injury. He only played, I mean, technically he played 10 games, but he only had 6 tackles. Man, last season, this guy at the end of the year, I mean, that's where he got the name Hurricane Dio, is because you just started seeing this guy spin off people, shove people to the side. I mean, he destroyed the Chargers. He single-handedly destroyed the Chargers. So really excited for what he's going to do, and can't wait to actually break this down, because I know some people are saying starter, some are saying rotation. We'll break it down though.
Credit to Morocco Brown, the nickname King, who gave that to Dio as they were scouting him. But as we watch more and more of his tape, it's very fitting as he really settles into the NFL. So, what are your expectations for Odangbo this season?
Well, just because there wasn't much in 21 and most of his production came from the second half of 22, I think he's going to have a career year in multiple forms. I think he's going to have a career year in sacks. I think he's going to have a career year in tackles, pressures, QB hits. He had 11 quarterback hits. Most of those came in the second half of the season. I mean, he was really on a tear. I think that with potentially more of a snap count, he could use his athleticism and that new frame that he's adding on to cause big issues for quarterbacks and running backs. Now, we saw great ability to get to the pass rusher, or to get to the passer, and to really provide pressure. I expect him to also do well in the running game. And I do think that he is going to, similar to Ebukam, just because he's just like so chaotic. And with that frame and those limbs, he can cause so much to happen. He's also going to open up opportunities for others.
I'm going to try to put my politician hat on and try to make everybody happy here. But I think if you wanted to have 5 starters along the defensive line, then I think you can consider Dio Odangbo a starter, because I mean, I think he will be probably the first pass rusher off the bench. He can play that spot where Kwity Paye plays on the strong side defensive end very, very well. You can put him at the 3 technique if you want to slide him in next to DeForest Buckner. As a third down pass rusher inside. If they take Grover Stewart off the field, you can certainly do that as well. And really think about that. Think about a third, say it's 3rd and 9. You're backed up on your own 21-yard line or wherever. And you're looking at a pass rush group of Samson Ebukam, Dio Odangbo, DeForest Buckner, and Kwity Paye. Good luck. Good luck to that opposing offensive line. Good luck to that opposing quarterback. Those guys are going to pin their ears back and basically have a race to the football in that NASCAR package. But yeah, I think that's what Dio's role is going to be. I don't know if he's really going to supplant anyone as a starter. I really think the defensive line group is locked in as the starters, and Ebukam, Buckner, Stewart, and Paye. But you can expect Dio Odangbo to have a lot of snaps. Come in, if one of those defensive ends need a break, I would expect Odangbo to be the first one in there. He's going to come in on those sub packages to rush from the inside as well. That utility knife where he can be placed all along the defensive line, and he's going to make an impact. And that makes him even more valuable for the Colts this season. So, Drake, what are your big question marks for him going into year 3, or technically year 2, when you typically see that jump? That's where Dio Odangbo kind of really is in his NFL playing career. So what's your biggest question for number 54?
Well, I mean, can he continue to stay healthy?
Mm-hmm.
Because he did. I mean, he had a way worse injury than Kwity Paye, and
Mm-hmm.
more of an alarming one coming in as a draft prospect and a rookie. So, can he continue to stay healthy after essentially missing his rookie season? And maybe even, well, not more important, but close, is can he continue to build off of a torrid second half of the season? That's going to be huge, because guys like Kwity Paye, he's kind of resetting. He's got to kind of reset and restart here. But with a guy like Odangbo, man, he needs to continue to build off of what he did at the end of last season. So can he keep doing that? Maybe with a more dialed back role a bit. If Ebukam starts, can he continue to provide all of those big plays like he did last year?
Absolutely. Want to give a shout out to Beverly Twin Life here real quick. What's up, fellas? Always enjoy the podcast, Colts Nation for Life. You guys looking good. Haven't been checking anything out in a while. Just had twin boys. Wow, that's big, and they're wearing me out. Let's rock. Twin boys. Yeah, our friend Brandon actually is having twin girls. So
Yeah.
congratulations to Brandon. Congratulations to Beverly Twin Life. But twins, I can understand that they would probably take over your life. But we're glad that you're here and listening along tonight. But yeah, I think for me is the biggest question for Dio Dangbo Drake. I like how you said how he can build off of that. Can he build off of it enough where he's actually pushing for starting time? I think
Exactly.
that's going to be the big thing for Dio Dangbo this year is that can't is that there, you have that starting lineup along the defensive line that's pretty much set in stone. But can Dio Dangbo make things tough on the coaches to keep him off the field? Can he go out there and produce enough where it's like, man, this guy is really starting to come on? Do the snaps start to diminish a little bit if he's out producing those guys? So I think that's going to be the goal for Dio Dangbo is to make it hard on the coaches to keep you off the field. I mean, you're going to be going in on different circumstances, different situations all along the defensive line, but I mean, for a young player that's a second round pick in the NFL, you're not going to be satisfied with that. He's not going to be satisfied until he's out there as a starter. So it's going to be interesting to see how he can continue to do that. If he can really push for those starter reps. Do we see him out there more? Does he start a game or two? Do we start seeing him really take over one of the spots? It's going to be interesting to see. But what do you think his impact is going to be in his third season?
Well, initially I had put, that he could be a chaos machine off the edge, but I love the fact that you said this is a guy that might move around more than anyone. I mean, he also has a body of a defensive tackle in the modern era of the NFL. So this is a
Mm-hmm.
guy who can use those long arms and push you and create separation and legitimately have inside pressure. I think he's just going to be a chaos machine. And if he continues progressing from last season, going right back to what you said, he could potentially push for a little bit more playing time, maybe even in the second half of the season, kind of like he did last year. Maybe he's one of those guys that, he's going to start to really churn that engine in week 9, 10, 11. You're starting to see a sack and a half, kind of like he did last year. Regardless, I think that he's just going to be a chaos machine for offensive lines, and they're going to move him all over the line, like you said.
I love that. A chaos machine. I feel like a chaos machine is the perfect way to describe Hurricane Dio. But yeah, Drake. I think Dio Dangbo is. I'm at the risk of repeating myself. He's going to be that first defensive end off the bench, that first defensive lineman off the bench, really to come in and even on the interior. But I think his impact is also going to be felt if one of those guys goes down. Say Samson Ebukam does get injured. Kwity Paye can very easily move over to that Leo position and
Mhm.
rush from that over that left tackle, and Dio Dangbo can come into that strong side defensive end role. That way, you get both of those guys out there starting. If Kwity Paye gets injured, obviously Dio is the first man up there as well. So he's in a spot where even though he isn't starting, he can still have a tremendous impact on this defense. If Dio Dangbo gets 6-7 sacks this year, I think that's a tremendous year for him, and he continues to make strides. Because I know sometimes one of the biggest knocks on Odangbo was he can be kind of sometimes you notice him, other times seems like he's invisible and you don't hear about him all game, doesn't make a play all game. You want to see that consistency, and I think that just comes with more playing time, being in the NFL longer, and I think we'll start to see that here in year 3. So those are the big 3 of the defensive ends, but there's still others out there on this roster that the Colts have a defensive end currently. They have Jannard Avery, a defensive end that they signed off the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Khalid Kareem, who has played sparingly. Tyquan Lewis, who is coming off of another big knee injury, but the Colts brought him back on another 1-year deal. Titus Leo, the rookie draft pick out of Wagner that surprised some people, but when you turn on his tape, he's an absolute menace. So Drake, out of all those other defensive ends and outside of the big 3 that we've already talked about, which defensive end do you think will have the biggest impact in 2023 outside of Paye, Ebukam, and Odangbo?
It's really hard. It's hard to not say Titus Leo. But I got to go with the old reliable. I got to go with Tyquan Lewis. Here's the thing. He's not just been injury prone. He's come off of back-to-back just devastating injuries that nearly ruin careers. Here's the thing, though. When this guy's healthy, he's arguably one of the best depth pieces you can place at defensive end. This dude
Mhm.
makes things happen when he's healthy, when he's getting playing time, when he's put in the right when he's put in the right situation, maybe that third down, you've got him in there, kind of like you said, with maybe Ebukam, maybe Paye, maybe Odengbo, something like that. And he can also provide a lot of good plays off of the edge and good run defense. So I think that when he's healthy, maybe it's a two-parter. When he's if we're talking about purely healthy, it's Tyquan Lewis. If we're talking about just like intrigue, it's definitely Titus Leo for me, just because I think, like you said, with the tape, when you watch the guy, oh, he's absolutely a menace, dude. The guy's running about as fast as you can. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Samson Ebukam, actually, in the way that he rushes the passer, lighter frame. Yeah, but those two for me personally are the two to look out for. But if you got to go with one, it's Tyquan Lewis.
The injuries to Tyquan Lewis over the past 2 seasons have
Ugh.
just been heart-wrenching. I mean,
Mhm.
because both times when it's happened, he's been playing really good. I mean, hell, the first time it happened back in 2021, he had recovered a fumble and he was returning it, and that's when his knee just completely gave out. So Tyquan Lewis, I think if he can come back again from a horrific knee injury and show that he is healthy, I think Tyquan Lewis, you exactly what you said. He's a very reliable depth piece that can come in a pinch and be a starter if you need him. Otherwise, he's going to provide very quality depth snaps and have an impact on Sundays. But since you took Tyquan Lewis, and I think that's what is the given answer. So that's my answer as well. But I'm going to give an alternative. You gave Titus Leo. I'm going to go with Jannard Avery. I
Oh.
think Jannard Avery is a sneaky, again, another sneaky signing by the Colts. We'll see if he ends up making the roster. And he's a smaller guy too. So he's about 6 foot. I think he's only about 250 pounds. So he fits that Leo position. Again, kind of backing up Samson Ebukam. The Colts have a lot of bigger defensive ends like Kwity Paye, Dio Dangbo, Tyquan Lewis more fits that strong side defensive end, but Titus Leo fits that Leo spot really well, and then Jannard Avery fits that Leo spot really well, and it really could be a battle between Avery and Leo for who makes the final roster. Because do the Colts? I'm sure if the Colts, if Leo didn't make the roster, they would try to get him back on the practice squad, try to develop him as a rookie. But if the rookie could come in and really show what he's got and outperform Jannard Avery, we might see Titus Leo take that quote unquote backup Leo position behind Samson Ebukam. So that's going to be a really fun, underrated battle to watch in camp. One that's really probably not going to get as much publicity, but it could determine who ends up getting that final spot along the defensive line. So definitely something to watch. But as we wrap up the episode here, Drake, on the defensive end position, give me your depth chart preview for the Colts for this spot. You can do like the Leo position as one, the strong side as the other, or you can just name all the defensive ends that you think are going to make the final roster.
So I'll just make it kind of simple. As far as the left and the right side, I think that you're going to have Paye, and I do think I know why it's not going to like this, but I do think that Ebukam gets the start. I do think though that Odengbo is going to have a prominent role. The reason that I don't think that he gets that starting position, two things, like you said. Number one, he doesn't really fit that Leo position. He's more of Kwity Paye's like rotational piece, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
So I think that he's going to get a lot of snaps, though. But then I do think that there's also a chance that in the second half of the season, he starts to really, make some heads turn. He starts to make people just not be able to, deny him. So kind of like he did last season. But I love the fact that you brought up that there could be a battle between Avery and Titus Leo. If I had to go with one, I would probably say Avery, just because he's got the experience. But man, look out for Titus Leo. He's a small school guy. He's a smaller type of guy, but he has tenacity and his tape is awesome to watch. So look out for him.
I love it. I love it. And I'm going to go with 5 well, because altogether will probably keep 9 to 10 defensive linemen like they do every year. So when you're splitting that up, when you're talking about the edge rushers, I'm going to agree. I think Kwity Paye is going to start on that strong side. You're going to have Samson Ebukam starting at the Leo. Dio Dangbo will be on there. Tyquan Lewis as well. And then that backup Leo spot again. I'm going to go with Jernard Avery, like I said, because I think he's going to have a bigger impact. I think Titus Leo would make the practice squad, but it would not surprise me at all if Leo does get that that earns that start, that roster spot over Avery. We're just gonna have to see throughout training camp and the preseason. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. And the reason we didn't include Adetomo Adebaware is because while he is listed as a defensive end, I think he's going to play more as a defensive tackle in this scheme, kind of like the backup 3 technique to DeForest Buckner. But we'll have to see. If not, and he is solely used at defensive end, then I think you got to include Adebaware as that defensive end, obviously, because he's going to be a lock to make the team. We'll talk about him more next week. But Drake, before we'll give you one last question before we kind of wrap up here. What is your overall thoughts about this edge group? Do you think it's one of the better edge groups that the Colts have had in some time? Why or why not?
Man, you go back to when was the last time you saw just dominance from the edge group? And it was really, even after Freeney left the team, Robert Mathis still nearly got 20 sacks, I believe. So it's been a minute. I have to say I personally think they are. And why I think they are is because, kind of like the Philadelphia Eagles, you have got a group of tenacious dudes. There's not really one guy in the defensive end group where you're like, he's going to take the top off of everything. He's going to get 15 plus sacks, 16, 17 sacks, like a TJ Watt or something. No, but these guys like Ebukam, constant motor. Odengbo, he's a chaos causer. Kwity Paye is the most complete defensive end they have. And then you have good depth pieces like guys like Tyquan Lewis. I'm telling you, this could be a steady 8 sack, 9 sack. Like if you're talking about Paye, it could be 9. Ebukam could be 9. And then Odengbo could be 7.5. I mean, that doesn't sound like any one guy's taking over, but that's even more terrifying, I think, than having one dude who just takes over a game. You've got 3 guys who are consistently good rather than one guy who's great. Man, I think that provides a lot more pressure on offenses. So I think it's an intriguing bunch. And if they all hit, it could be one of the best the Colts have had in a while.
And that's where I'm at. I mean, obviously you don't have the guys like a Robert Mathis and a Dwight Freeney. You don't have those superstars out there on the edge. But as far as the overall group of the defensive ends and the depth, you have to be excited about this group. Kwity Paye, Dio Dangbo entering year 3. They could both stay healthy. I think we're going to see another big jump out of those guys. Ebukam finally getting his opportunity. I know he wants to make the most of it. You got Tyquan Lewis, who again wants to prove he can stay healthy and is going to be driven. You've got that young rookie. And if you want to throw Adebaware in there too, you're really excited about his athletic upside. So, what does Chris Ballard always say? He wants to have 9 to 10 defensive linemen that he can continually rotate in and out, so that way they stay healthy, stay fresh, and can go and give 110% on every play. I think we're starting to get there with these defensive ends where you can start rotating these guys in and out, and you're going to have fresh bodies that can be productive in every single situation. So the Colts, I think, can be really excited about their edge group heading into this season. And that's our show for this evening, guys. Really appreciate all of the love, all the support tonight. It was a very fun conversation. Shout out to Inside the Shoe for our lone super chat of the evening. You're absolutely awesome. Thank you all for your support. Tony, Stats Matt, Wyatt Law, Logan, Matthew, all of you guys, Truitt, don't want to forget Truitt, Beverly, Brandon, don't want to forget any of you guys, Nathan, you guys are all the best. It's so much fun doing this show every Monday and Thursday night with you all. And if you haven't done so already, the ticker is going to tell you what to do. Like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook. follow at Colts on FN on Twitter, and subscribe to the Horseshoe Huddle YouTube channel. Hit that bell so you know whenever Drake and I are going live, whenever Destin and Shad are going live, because we're going to be giving you content all the way up until training camp starts. And then the Colts are going to have a pretty wild season. I know Drake's been writing away as always on horseshoehuddle.com. What can the people find on the site that you've been working on?
So two that are out right now is I cover a piece that had the biggest draft steals of the last 10 years. The one Colts player easily makes the list. Another one was snubbed, unacceptable. Definitely go read it. And then another one is, are the Colts, taking a little too long or taking the right guard position a little bit too lightly? And then one that will be released is 5 reasons Shane Steichen has a golden opportunity to succeed as the Colts head coach.
Make sure you go check all those out. One person I snubbed was Deep. Forgot that Deep was in the chat tonight. That's on me, Deep. Hey, that's on me.
At least he let you know.
Yeah. You can take your frustrations out on me. That's inexcusable, but we really appreciate it. For me, again, Rookie Files is off and running this week. Josh Downs, I've released his story. Real fun talking about his dad playing in the NFL, his uncle playing in the NFL, and now Josh Downs gets the chance to play in the NFL as well. Also released Blake Freeland, who, while he's an offensive tackle now, he wasn't always an offensive tackle. And in fact, Blake Freeland isn't even the most athletic person in his family. So definitely go check out Blake's story. And then next will be Adetomiwa Adebaware, his story, another very fascinating one, as this entire rookie class for the Indianapolis Colts has a lot of fun stories. So be sure to check all of those out on horseshoehuddle.com. Go follow Drake at DWalsterDrake. You can follow me at Andrew Moore NFL, and we will be back Monday night to talk about the defensive tackle position. DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, Adebaware, all on the docket and will be discussed Monday night. So make sure you tune in. But everyone, have a fantastic weekend, and we hope to see you on Monday.